Welcome to today's episode of Everyday Fix. Today I'm going to be doing all 4 brake calipers on a 2007 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. I recently found that all my calipers are hanging up. Now, these calipers that are on the vehicle have 200,000 miles on them. I'm 100% sure they're original, and over time, brake fluid will break down and turn into water. So I'll be replacing the brake fluid with synthetic DOT4 or DOT4. This should help the brake fluid not to break down over time. Thank you.
Hi guys.
So let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I've already jacked up the vehicle, put jack stands under the axle to be safe, and I'm going to use a little air power to take these lug nuts off. We got to get the tire off so we can get down to the caliper and slide, and then we'll go from there. Now that we've got the tire off, I'm going to show you some key components in your brake system. First, you have your rotor, your caliper slide, and your caliper, along with your brake pads inside there. The caliper slide helps this caliper slide back and forth in that direction as it squeezes on the pads. This helps the pads clinch onto your brake rotor, which stops your vehicle. So, on the back of the 07 Jeep Wrangler, there are 2 18mm screws, bolts, which are on the back here. And those take the slide off, but to get the caliper off, there's 2 13s right here that I've already loosened. And then you can pry the caliper out like this. So, while I got this right here, let me show you what happened. So, there's a piston in here, and when you hit your brake pedal, the back of this fills up with brake fluid, which pushes the piston out, which compresses the pads against your rotor. The only thing that retracts this after you take your foot off the pedal is there is a square O-ring inside here, and as the piston comes out, it rolls the O-ring, and as you let off the brake, the O-ring wants to bring the piston back. Over time, that O-ring will wear out, or this piston will get pitted. Okay, I wanted to take this time real quick to show you what it looks like when you take your caliper out. So when you take this off your vehicle, and you take the old caliper off, in the front you need to reuse the slide. The rear comes with slides, the fronts do not. The fronts come with a caliper and slide pins just like this. So you would separate your old caliper by just sliding this off. Then you take this bracket over to your new caliper. You loosen these up so that they can spin a little bit with the wrench, because they do have to line up when they go in here. There's a flat on each one of these slides. You line it up, grease them up, and you'll know if it's going on right if you can just get a nice easy slide out of it like that. Remember, if this doesn't slide easy, you're gonna have caliper problems. It's gonna hang up, you're going to burn up pads, and you're going to smell it. So then once you get this on here, you just kind of work the boots back over like this, because the boots will keep all the dust and dirt out of the pins, which keeps these moving freely for years. Like I said, I had 200,000 miles on the old caliper and slides. You can get another 200 out of these. So now, once you've worked the boots back over the slides, you can take your brake pads if they're in good shape like mine are. I just put them on not less than a week ago. You take these, you slide them into your old clips. If your clips look bad right here, you can replace them. The calipers will come with new ones. I just put these clips in when I put the brake pads in, so I know that mine are in good shape. See how that's sliding on the caliper there? You take the inside one, work it inside there, You want to see if it'll move freely once you get the pads in there. That way you know you're in good shape. Now we can take this over to the rotor and install the new rotor and slide with pads, or new caliper and slide with pads on the rotor, and bolt it into the car. Okay, now that I've replaced the two 18mm bolts that hold the slide and caliper combination together on, I'll be taking this line off of here and reinstalling it here with the factory screw that they give you and the two new copper washers. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull this bolt out, which has a hole in it which allows fluid to pass through it into the piston, and there will be a two brand new copper washers that come with this caliper and slide. And you'll use one copper washer on this side and one copper washer on this side. I know you can't see a gap there, and that's because it crushes and creates a seal for the high pressure that comes through these brake lines when you're using your brakes. So let's pull this line off, get it onto there, and then we'll get around to bleeding these brakes. So now we have our caliper, slides, and pads all in here, and we're going to take this and we're going to orientate it the right way. You always want your bleeder on top because air comes to the top. So as fluid comes down this line, which will hook up to here, it's going to start filling this up, and then to bleed your brakes you're going to open this bleeder. So now that I've put the bolts back into the back of the slide here, which hold it to the vehicle, I haven't tightened them up yet. I'm going to put this brake line on next. This brake line requires a 10mm or a 7/16. Let's see. 7/16. Requires a 7/16, and then I've already loosened up the line on here a little bit. So we'll take this off. We'll take the old bolt and get rid of it. We'll use the new bolt and two new copper washers to seal that line up on this caliper. And let's see how it goes. Okay, I've got the new bolt going through the brake line. Two new copper washers, one on either side. Tightening that up. And as you're tightening this up, you'll feel those copper washers crushing. Now that I've got the new bolt in the brake line going into the new caliper, I put a copper washer on either side of the brake line, and you can feel it crush as you tighten it up. And you want to go until you can't tighten up a normal size wrench. Don't put an extension on it, just tighten it up. You'll feel them crush, and you'll know when to stop. So now we can finish tightening up the two 18mm bolts, which will lock this caliper into place, and then we can start bleeding the lines. Okay, now everything's tightened up. Caliper is free to slide. I'm going to get a 10mm out, and I'm going to crack this bleeder. Now you're going to want to do this on all four of them, and you want to crack the bleeder and let a lot of fluid run out of here as you're filling up the reservoir up top. The reason you want to do this is because this is a brand new caliper, so this entire cylinder right here, the space that they have allowed fluid to go into to push the cylinder forward, is full of air. And brakes and air don't mix. So you want to crack these bleeders. It's not a 10mm. It is a 7/16. And you just want to leave it cracked. It's going to take a few minutes, but you'll start seeing fluid come out of there. You're going to want to crack all of those and really let a lot of fluid flow through there. This is going to be good for two reasons. For one, you're going to get most of the air out. You're still going to have to pump bleed them, but you're going to get most of the air out, and we'll be filling this up with our DOT4 synthetic, which will be replacing whatever was in here before by the prior owner. Like I said. Okay, now as you can see, I've cracked this bleeder. I'm getting a steady stream of, not a steady stream, I'm getting a good drip of brake fluid coming out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wrench ready. I'm going to open this right up until I start seeing a steady stream. And then I'm going to tighten it back up. Now I'm going to go around and I'm going to open up the other ones. And we're going to see how much air we can get out of it before we have to start the manual bleed. Alright, I didn't get a chance to take the bleeding the brakes video. We did cover gravity bleeding, but we did not cover pump bleeding. Usually you'd want to do this with 2 people. I'm going to draw this out for you so you can see how it's done. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to refer to Eric the car guy, who does a great video on pumping the brakes and getting all the fluid out, so bleeding the brakes. So what we'll do here is we'll draw this out and we'll do it with all the pieces that you're going to have to use to bleed your brakes with another person. So there are a couple steps to this, and you are going to have 2 people doing it, so you're going to have person 1 and person 2. The person 1 is going to be sitting in the car. These are going to be their feet, and 1 foot's going to be on the brake pedal. Now let's do this bigger. So you're going to have 1 foot on the brake pedal. Brake pedal is going to go up and down when he's pressing on it and releasing. That's going to be connected to your brake reservoir on the underside of the hood, and that's going to have your brake lines going off it. They are going to go into another block full of brake lines. You don't need to worry about that. That's your ABS block. And then these are going to go out to your tires. You're going to have one of these lines for each tire, and then they're going to be connected into your caliper. And then on the top of your caliper, you've got the bleeder screw. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fill this full of fluid. And once this is full of fluid, you can have the guy inside pumping on the brakes. You're going to want to do this 3 times. And then as he gets to the end of his 3rd time, he's going to hold down on the pedal. As he's holding down, person number 2 under the car is going to be cracking this bleeder screw. Now as you take the wrench and you crack this bleeder screw, fluid's going to want to come out of here. You're going to want to catch that in a bucket. And then as you crack this, you only want to crack it open a little bit. You're going to see fluid come out. The pedal's going to go down because he's holding pressure on the pedal. So now as the pedal goes down, when he hits the bottom, he's going to say, I'm down. You're going to tighten up this bleeder screw, and then he can do pumping again. So what you're going to want to do is do this probably 3 to 4 times per tire, and then you're going to want to feel how the brakes are when you're running the vehicle. Sometimes you can just fire it up and use your foot on the pedal and see if it feels like it did before. If it doesn't, then you still have air in there. So this is the only process you can do other than gravity bleeding and possibly vacuum bleeding, but we can get into that another time, that can get all the air out of the system. It's not very hard to do. It's way easier with 2 people than it is with 1. Like I said, if you refer to the video from Eric the car guy, he does a great video on bleeding brakes. So thank you for watching my video on brakes, and I hope to see you on the next one.